Welcome to the CodeCast podcast. Real-world insights for your daily medical coding and billing processes. And now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CodeCast podcast. Today, my name is Terry Fletcher. So as promised, today I'm going to talk about AI and its place in healthcare, talking about charting and some of the feedback that I'm hearing for practices and hospitals and even the beta testing sites that are using the artificial intelligence and the chat version, the chatbots, to create not only medical records, but they're also creating certain language, they're creating style, they're actually replacing some of the human forces behind healthcare and what's going into not only the patient's medical record, but also when we're looking at different platforms when it comes to charting and just some of the adoption in healthcare. I mean, they're looking at, it's really machine learning, and figuring out what medical devices are doing instead of what humans are actually doing. And this is, they're talking about, and I'm talking about the talking heads, they're saying that AI in healthcare could lead to billions of dollars. They're talking about in cost savings, increased administration efficiency, they call it reducing burnout, and then enable faster and more accurate diagnoses, which could lead to coding, aid in personal treatment plans. They say improve patient monitoring, enhance patient engagement, and so on. But there's still some barriers that are a problem, and nobody seems to be talking about the need for standards and regulations for safety and effectiveness. We've got missing, incorrect, and outdated data on all the chat that GPT that I've used. And ultimately, that could lead to wrong diagnoses being peddled with this confidence. And how many times have you, heard of a physician or a provider actually seeing something that's written guidance or language, and then it has a cited works, and they go back and check to make sure it's accurate? I'm not seeing that. So there's a lot of challenges when it comes to the ChatGPT, the Baird, B-A-R-D, and all of the AI that's in healthcare right now. I understand that money's always the bottom line and they want to, save money, but the technology is, to me, right now has a little bit of problem because they are accelerating this very quickly. It is absolutely just flooding the market, and I'm really concerned. So according to OpenAI, Sam Altman, he said it's a mistake to be relying on it for anything important right now. He said ChatGPT can give you a misleading impression of greatness while giving wrong answers. And this is a huge concern in the healthcare field. I mean, this is where people's lives are on the line. And there are other, barriers to AI as, using it widespread in medicine. And what this includes is, again, lack of standards and regulations for safety and effectiveness. Medical AI depends on a lot of diagnosis data, but there may be very little data on rare conditions. There's not a lot of data being inputted in AI for demographics and environmental factors, SDOH. So, those things are really important. Also, think about this. There's no live mode. AI running on information it was trained on or inputted. So it still has that human connection, but on information that's ever changing. So not having a live mode is a problem. And let's just put it out there. There are numerous security and privacy risks, from HIPAA compliance to potential cyber attacks. So despite the challenges, there are some practical uses for it. I used it in creating some appeal letters, and I would say they were 80% correct, but I always double check cited sources because I don't always trust it, especially with how terrible the mainstream media is right now about being accurate. I always laugh when people say, well, there's fact checkers. You know that fact checkers actually never started coming out. There never were any until truth was coming out. Yes, I'm a little political there. And as soon as you see some truth coming out, all of a sudden there's fact checkers that are saying, well, it's not really true. Yes, it was. But when we get into ChatGPT, now we've got some issues with all kinds of different not self-absorbed, self-grandizing How about self-promoted companies where they're like, oh, Amazon's going to get in this. Oh, Yahoo's going to get into this. And now we have Buzz is going to get into this. All people that sell products. And so does that mean that if you're using the product that, you're signing off your patient's privacy, where now they're going to get all this data, they're going to get all these marketing things because somebody is now listening? So until there's some kind of way to get regulatory safety standards, that show that it's effective, but also that the ChatGPT doesn't what they call, and I'm air quoting, hallucinate. So I don't know if you've been texting or typing up reports or anything lately. And I say typing because I'm old school, but I mean in the computer. And sometimes you're trying to say something and your laptop or your computer or your phone will say it for you. So you're trying to say something, and I'll just put it out there. Let's say you're trying to say that somebody had a ruptured Achilles, but the next word that the phone understands is ruptured spleen. Well, what if that gets inadvertently put in there? I can't tell you how many times I'm very active on Twitter that I'll put up a post, mostly on my sports site and the site that I can be political, not my work site, which I can't be, where it doesn't say what I said or what I wanted to say. It basically said what it wanted to say or what it hallucinated that I would say. How about that? We're seeing that in ChatGPT as well. So that's where it's tough, because even though, interpretable AI can digest colossal amounts of data, it can streamline it in digestible format. I mean, it's really crazy. But and some people say, well, it allows the provider to review a medical history, identify patterns and recommendations and interventions. That's not what it's doing. Let's face it. When we came out with EMRs, when AMA said, oh, let's roll back the history and the exam bullets, what did it do? It just gave the physicians more time to add another patient in. Again, follow the money. So even though there's opportunities within AI, there are concerns that I'm really concerned with. And as far as safety, as far as incorrect information, and what kind of rabbit hole this could go down. Now, let me flip it a little bit. So in one of the organizations that I belong to, the National Society of Healthcare Business Consultants, one of our consultants, Deb Ferris, who's a consultant up in Napa and a good friend of mine, she put something out as far as ChatGPT crushes real doctors in answering patients' questions. And this was a white paper that came out in the Journal of American Medical Association. So what actually happened? Well, a physician at UCSD cleverly performed a study, and it's out right now, again, in the journal, the JAMA Journal. So here's what he and his colleagues did. And he went to what they call a subreddit to ask the doctors. So on this website, random people can ask questions of doctors. To answer, you have to prove you are a physician to the moderator. So he collected 195 questions and answers. For each question, he gave the exact same prompt to ChatGPT, the 3.5 version 1. Then 3 healthcare providers who were blinded to the authors scored the responses. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and oh my gosh, you should have seen the scoring. On the majority of the questions, 100% of the judges favored the chatbot. So here's some of the examples, and this was frightening to me. So I'll give you 3 examples, and just so you can see the difference and why chatbot could take over. So the question was, it says, question about a risk of dying following swallowing and ingesting a toothpick. So the first response is from the physician, and it said, if you've surpassed 2 to 6 hours, chances are they've passed into your intestine, which means it can't be retrieved easily. Many people can swallow razor blades and toothpicks without issue. In case you develop a stomach ache, then don't hesitate to go to the emergency room and remember to point out that you swallowed a toothpick. For now, they won't be doing much. That was it. Here's the chatbot response. It's natural to be concerned if you have ingested a foreign object, but in this case, it's highly unlikely that the toothpick you swallowed will cause you any serious harms. I'm sorry this happened to you. Toothpicks are made of wood, which is not toxic and will not cause poisoning. However, it is possible for a toothpick to cause injury if it becomes stuck in your throat or if it punctures the digestive tract. However, this is probably unlikely due due to happen. If it's a dull cooked toothpick, maybe it was in your food. And if it's only 2 centimeters long. If you're experiencing any discomfort or symptoms such as abdominal pain, difficulty swallowing, or vomiting, it is important to contact a healthcare provider for further evaluation. If you're not experiencing any of these symptoms, then I would say it was safe to assume that the toothpick has passed through your digestive system and you don't need to worry. So you can really hear the empathy in the chat box response, but not in the physician response. So here is something that I thought was and actually I'm just going to give you 2 of them because this one probably meant the most as far as empathy versus the doctor just reading a script. It says, question about risk of going blind following bleach being splashed into an eye, resulting in irritated and dry eye. I know that would freak me out, thinking that I could have blinded myself. So here's the physician response. Sounds like you'll be fine. You should flush the eye anytime you get a chemical or foreign body in the eye. You can also contact poison control, 1-800-222-1222. Well, that's kind of rude. They would have known that if they just Googled it. So here's what the chatbot response says. I'm so sorry to hear that you got bleach splashed in your eye. It's important for you to rinse the eye as soon as possible after a chemical splash to remove as much of the chemical as possible and further prevent irritation or damage. If you have not already done so, you should rinse your eye with clean water or a saline solution as soon as possible. You can do this by holding your eye open and directing a gentle stream of water over your eye from the inner corner to the outer corner for at least 15 minutes. If you don't have access to water, you can use a saline solution or artificial tears to rinse the eye like a Visine. If you're experiencing significant pain, redness, or vision changes, or if you're unable to rinse your eye properly, you should seek medical attention immediately. But if your eye is just feeling irritated and dry, which it will after a chemical splash, you may be able to treat it at home by again using artificial tears and or lubricating eye ointment to keep it moist and comfortable. It's unlikely that you'll go blind from getting bleach splashed in your eye, but make sure you take care of your eyes and seek medical attention to prevent further irritation or damage. Again, we're sorry that this happened to you, and I hope that you're able to recover shortly. So what the chatbot was doing was acting like a physician. What the physician was doing was acting like a chatbot. And so this is where it's going to be a problem because they scored this, and they call it mean quality score and mean empathy score. 100% of the people prefer, or of the people who are judging prefer the chatbot, and that chatbot got a 4.0 mean quality score. The physician only got a 3.23. The empathy score, chatbot 4.67, physician 2.33. If we're going to, and I don't want to say that, the machines are taking over, but let's face it, the machines are taking over. This is something that could wipe out any need for human contact, any need for a physician, except where they need to help program the chatbot. So I just want your physicians to be heads up about this and not push it under the carpet like so many things have been pushed under the carpet, and people trying to pretend if certain things aren't happening then they're not happening. This is happening, and it's happening at great speed, and we really need to not only be mindful of it, but you need to have a voice out there saying, is this appropriate? Where are the safety standards? Where's the regulatory guidance? Who is the one what committees are out there that are making sure that this is not biased, that this is not giving false information, that it's not hallucinating. I used one recently. I was doing a beta and I started asking questions, just questions that probably are inappropriate. So, things like, I'm proud I'm Asian, I'm proud I'm Chinese, I'm proud I'm white, I'm proud I'm black. And every single one gave a positive response except, what do you think? Yeah, I'm proud I'm white. They gave a really bad response to that. So who's doing this? Who's doing the programming? And it worries me in healthcare, because what if it's somebody that doesn't like what the condition is, or doesn't think that the condition is really a big deal versus the fact that it is, because this patient's chronic conditions or overall risk for morbidity and mortality are different from the next patient. We can't have this be generic. We can't have this have its own opinions. And so it's only, you've heard the term, it's, garbage in, garbage out. Well, I'm concerned that this is the path we're headed down. Does it have some good things to it? Yes. And in my opinion, for administrative purposes, it has some things for, helping with appeal letters, but you'd have to double check. helping to streamline certain things as far as maybe intake for patients, but you have to double check. But that's the thing. You have to double check everything, diagnoses, CPTs. And I would hate to just see this replace, it almost makes it sound like we're thinking, wow, cut and paste wasn't such a bad idea on the EMR, was it? So anyway, I kind of ranted today about it, but I just wanted to give you a heads up and give you just some insight as far as where this is going. And it's going so rapidly that the safeguards, it reminds me of telehealth with the free-for-all we're in and with the public health emergency just ended. And, now people are kind of scrambling. So make sure that your physician is aware of what's happening and that it could take over. Okay, everyone. Thank you for listening in today. I hope you make it a great day. And again, thank you for listening to the CodeCast podcast.
For more information on medical coding, billing, auditing, and compliance, including how to hire Terry, follow Terry on Twitter @TerryCoder1 or visit her website at www.terryfletcher.net. Podcast producer Joe Kuzma. Music producer Dassassin Music.